Welcome to The Road Less Traveled with Tiffany Rosenbaum. This podcast is about sharing the success and failure of entrepreneurs. Join in and learn from others' mistakes so you don't have to go through the same hardships in business. Now let's welcome your host, business coach, real estate investor, and proud wife and mom, Tiffany Rosenbaum.
Welcome to another episode of The Road Less Traveled. We are so incredibly excited. We have Chris Springer here today, and he has such an impressive story behind him, from 21 years in the Army as an officer to now helping property managers with their marketing and websites and branding journey. He is changing the game for property managers. We're so excited to talk to you today. So why don't you open up a little bit with your story, Chris, with how you went from the Army to now running different companies.
Yeah, well, thanks for that nice introduction. That was too much. I've got a great team that work at PMW, and they do great things. They've been doing it for many years. So really excited to be a part of that. So yeah, the journey is, well, I'm sad to say that it's going by so fast. I mean, you know, I've already hit the half century mark, which is, so it seems like yesterday, though, that, you know, I graduated West Point with Dave. You know, we've been very close friends since I was 18 anyway. So we've known each other for many years. We go back a long way. And, you know, obviously you go to West Point, you join the military. And I did that really with no intention to stay for a full career. But, you know, I found out I really liked it. I liked leadership. I liked it a lot. And, you know, I was lucky that I got a lot of opportunities to lead, and had great experience in the military. I did what they call a lot of muddy boot stuff early on. I went to Ranger school, Jumpmaster school, jumping out of perfectly good airplanes. And that is not me. That was not me growing up at all. I am afraid of heights. And quite frankly, I was pretty terrified the first time I jumped out of a perfectly good airplane.
Okay, I have to ask this. Sorry. How do you go from being terrified of heights to jumping out of planes? Because that just sounds like
doesn't compute. It's like going from the military to property management.
Exactly,
like
right?
Yeah. No, it's a great question, and I still don't know if I have a perfect answer. But here's what happened: I went to Ranger school first, and because I was an artillery guy, and I really just decided on a whim to go to Ranger school. It was never really in the cards, and I didn't think I'd make it through. I was newly married, and I made it through. And I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that to happen. And you can't be a Ranger without having your airborne wings. And so everybody's like, you did the hard one first, so you got to go do the easy one. I'm like, okay, I guess. So when you're around peers, and I had the Ranger tab at airborne school, which was very that doesn't, there's not too many, so they're all kind of like looking at me. So when all eyes are on you, you kind of put aside some of those fears, and you're like, you know what, there were guys in World War II that were doing this, and it was their first jump, and they were jumping into combat. So get over it, get over myself, just suck it up and drive on. And I did it. And turns out it's a lot of fun. When you land well, it's a lot of fun. It's those hard falls that make you rethink your career decisions. But anyway, that was great. Did all that stuff. I got to serve in an amazing unit, the 173rd Airborne in Vicenza, Italy, which is kind of northern Italy. It's right at the base of the Alps. Couldn't be more beautiful. And got to jump out of airplanes doing that for a while. And then, kind of went through a career. I lived overseas for 6 years, lived in Germany, had 2 kids in Germany, lived in Italy, got a couple. I always say I got a few all-inclusive trips to Iraq, got to teach at West Point, got to do a RAND Corporation fellowship along the way, and taught strategy at the Command General Staff College. So 21 years can go by really fast, and it did. And, I feel like Dave Borden and I were always predestined to kind of partner together. That was the one thing that I always, because, he was a Chinook pilot, did his time in 5 years, and then got out. And, he started doing rent clicks with my former roommate at West Point, So, I knew all those guys very well, and I got to see them succeed and do great things. And I was always like, man, I would love to partner with Dave. And, I got my MBA while in the military before I taught economics at West Point. And, I just, it was always kind of like, if there's ever an opportunity, I'm going to jump at it. But when I left the military in 2017, I retired as a lieutenant colonel, and we moved the family to St. Louis, Missouri. I took on an IT consulting job with a company called Slalom. They do, it's a smaller company relative to the big giants in consulting, but they do IT consulting. They implement platforms for Fortune 100 companies, and lots of consulting, IT management consulting, that type of thing. Did that for 6 years, which was great because it really kind of helped me fast forward from a technology knowledge perspective, and really kind of set the stage for me to transition over to PMW. And it was about 2.5 years ago I started talking to Dave, and he said, "Hey, I got this Rentvine thing, and it's really taking a lot of my time." Myself and my co-founder John Ewan, they were busy, obviously, building a thing that we now know is Rentvine, and it's doing very well. And he said, "But I've got this amazing company, amazing people, talented people that know what they're doing. They need someone to kind of come in and help, just take them, put it into a different gear and help them grow a little bit faster, smarter, all those type of things." And so and there it was, and the opportunity was there. So, I mean, the only sticking point was they were in Florida. I was in St. Louis. I've got, first and foremost, I've got a beautiful family, a wife of almost 28 years next month, which is crazy to think about, that I'm almost at my third decade being married. But it's been a great, we have 4 amazing kids. One just graduated high school last week. That was a lot
Oh,
of fun.
congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. We did we had a little pig roast, and I was chopping up a pig. That we started that with my first child, and she went on to Wisconsin, and the second one is also going to Wisconsin next year. They row, their varsity rowers up at Wisconsin, and I have a third daughter in high school who's doing the same. So, it's I, as a dad, of course, I'm proud that they're athletes in college, but I'm even more excited about the fact that they have to get up at 6 a.m. every morning and go hit the lake. It's great for discipline perspective, and it's kind of like a little bit of the West Point that I had that they're not getting, but I'm really proud of them. And then I've got a son who plays AAA hockey, so I'm a hockey dad most 9 months out of the year. Going to awesome places in the winter like Chicago, Detroit, Canada, stuff like that. But
Nice.
it's amazing. Having the journey would not be the same without the family. And so when it came time to, well, what do we do? Do I just commute down to Florida, or do I move the family? We decided to kind of keep the family here. I could be more focused down in Florida. So that's kind of how the journey went, and it's been great. We've I came in and really came in with just a lot of new energy in that side of the business. We've always had a great product. I mean, PMW has been doing great things for 14 years. And of course, the company's evolved over that time. And now with Rentvine, we're seeing the synergies between the two companies are really impressive. And we never really fully, we never really fleshed that out fully. Now, Rentvine was being built, and now it's at a point where it's on parity with all the other property management softwares out there, and much better because the open API and all the great things about Rentvine. So it's been a great journey. Couldn't be happier to work with Dave. As I said, we've been very close friends every step of the way. We've been in a fantasy football league since 2001, for example.
Nice. So when Dave asked you to come in, was there things that were you just going to lead, or did you have a vision in your mind of what needed to be changed, where you were headed? Like, how did that transpire?
Yeah. So, that was Dave. First of all, Dave was incredibly, he treated exactly like you would want to be treated coming in that scenario. There was about a year of vetting. We talked for about a year before we pulled the trigger. And I had a chance to come visit the company about 3 times. Of course, I was an early investor in Rentvine. Had no idea what I was really investing in. I was investing in Dave, and that's always a good investment. And of course, it panned out. And I didn't even know John Ewan at the time. And since now I've, very close to John, and John is incredibly impressive. He's the workhorse behind the whole company. And he's built that thing, and he's a great partner to work with. So I just knew that from a leadership personality perspective, it felt right from the beginning. Of course, they shared that they felt like, PMW could do much more from a service perspective, from an overall strategic advising for property managers. And so we brought more of that. It's not just a website company. I mean, a website is a tool. It's just one of many tools that you need to succeed as a property manager. But what we're trying to elevate is the industry expertise that we bring and that amazing support. And going forward, so one of the things we talked about, and of course, I also came in and observed, like, how is the company doing? How are we running? And what I found were incredibly talented people, dedicated, been there since the beginning. The Kristen Ewans of the world, the Ashley Knights. I mean, like, if you look at all the leaders across the company, they've all been there for at least 7 years, which is impressive.
That is impressive.
Especially in this technology space. And what was going on is they were doing such amazing work, but no one was really pushing them to go to the next level. And so we brought a product mindset to it that, hey, every day I want to bring more products, more offerings, more services to the client so that they're just happy. Like, they sit back and go, wow, wasn't expecting that. Thank you. And, we also, and we still have some ways to go. Every day we're talking about how we can improve the value of our services. And, you have a team that's dedicated and all in. And I am very lucky that I got to inherit that. So the pieces were all there. They've always been there. It's just that, Dave and John, I think, obviously needed time to focus exclusively on Rentvine. That is a full-time job.
Yes, it is.
with
So
all the
you
growth.
said to lead someone to go to the next level. How did you come in as a new leader and not just rampage them, but how did you come in and like get them to want to go to the next level? I think sometimes that could be easier said than done. No matter if you have a great team, not a great team, or whatever you have, like if you come in and you just like, hey, this is what it's going to be happen, sometimes that doesn't come across well. So what did you do to get them on board and to make sure that y'all went together?
Yeah, great question. And it's something I thought about a lot because first of all, my leadership philosophy is really, if you know Simon Sinek,
I love Simon Sinek.
Leaders Eat Last, right? It is he picked that book really resonates with me the most for leadership style. Kind of it's servant leadership, and how you come in as a leader and establish that sort of mentality. I did not want to come in as a wrecking ball because, by the way, I was not a property manager. I did not come from the industry. I came from technology space, and I always told Dave that. I said, am I going to have imposter syndrome on this? And he say, Chris, we need a leader. And, we're not always lucky to have an opportunity to vet someone out over 32 years of knowing somebody. And that's kind of, that's how we looked at it. I said, okay, well, if that's the case, then it's going to be great. And I came in knowing that I was surrounded by experts, so I wasn't going to come in and give them develop a new Gnib day one that just blew everybody away. I already had the team in place and that all the expertise was already there. So really it was about coming in and helping elevate them, tell me, what would you do if you were in my situation? Really just listen for the first 6 months, really, took a step back and observed and listened. Now I saw some low hanging fruit from an operational efficiency perspective. We were not tracking things, we weren't really measuring client success as much as we do now. Like what do clients want? Oh, they want leads. They want organic leads. Who doesn't want leads? Well, we were measuring that, but we weren't really looking at how we were doing, how well we could do. And what if they're not getting the leads that they were expecting? How are we interacting with them? So really just challenging some of the things from an outside perspective. I think having, so from a leader perspective, it was really about rallying the team, really making them feel pretty special because I'll be honest with you, PMW is the OG. They've been there for 14 years doing great things. Rentvine comes along, it's the new shiny thing, and a lot of focus is on Rentvine these days, rightfully so, because it is changing the industry. But so it was, the team, they've always had great identity, brand recognition, but helping them feel like, hey, you're the ones that really created the opportunity for Rentvine to even be born. And let's double down on that and take it to another level. And I think, the team had a lot of energy with that whole, the process of sort of rediscovering themselves, even going to the trade shows, showing up looking sharp, and really enthusiastic. We like to have fun, and property managers like to have fun, so really just taking that to another level and creating that, growth through purpose is what I really try to bring in. Told them, I like to lead with humility. I decide with integrity and grow with purpose. That's kind of like that's my bumper sticker, right? And I said, hey, I don't have all the answers, and I don't think anyone in the world has all the answers.
I agree with
But
you.
I'm willing to learn, and I will make decisions, based on my experience, professional knowledge, and and that's been gained over many years of being in similar situations. So, that transition from the military to property management, digital marketing industry is actually much more relevant than I realized because it's kind of the same muscle movements. And I'm lucky that I was, trained. It's funny, Dave and I often kid about those uh, uh, morality, we used to call them morality classes back at West Point, where they would present you with scenarios, and we used to just kind of roll our eyes and say, this is so obvious, such a waste of time. But what I've learned over time is making the hard decisions and doing the right thing is actually kind of hard. And I was very lucky that I had enough training to really set me up for success later on. And I've been surrounded by amazing mentors. And I really try to take that mentor approach at the company as well. And they've responded magnificently. I mean, I'm really happy with the growth. We've grown by about 50 to 60% in less than 2 years.
That's
And
amazing.
we're doing it responsibly, Tiffany. And I always told them, I say, growth, what does it matter if you're doing growth and you're not growing and making your clients happy at the same time? That's not really good. I think
100%.
what is happening is we're doing a better job of telling our story. And what property managers are realizing is like, hey, who do you guys use? You guys seem to be doing okay. Like, who are you using? Word of mouth is incredible in this industry, and it's really kind of helped us scale. And no one else can do what we do at the scale that we do for single family resident property managers. And we have, we're relentless on the strategy. We don't take a day for granted. That's the philosophy we take, that, hey, technology is changing every day. We have a Monday board that tracks all the AI tools.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
every day we are adding something to that, because I said, look, AI is not going to go away. The tools are always going to be there. But you know what? The industry knowledge, that's something that can't be had overnight. And that is where we can excel. And let's just, like Kristen Ewan, anybody that's worked with Kristen Ewan, I mean, there's no one that can deconstruct the latest Google algorithm that was put out with no notes, by the way. That's, Google doesn't share what they put out. You have to go back and reverse engineer everything. And Kristen can do it in a matter of hours.
That's amazing.
The skill that she has, she's been doing it for 14 years. So, of course she can do it well. And it's just, it's fun to see the team really thrive with that, that purpose. I think they were always doing the thing. I don't think they realized just how talented they were and how they could bring so much more to the table, to so many more clients too.
100%. You said something
Sorry,
earlier. I
that
want
was
to
a
go.
lot.
No, you're good. I love it. I love it. You said something earlier that I want to go back to, though. You said when you came in, you listened. How do you feel like as people are listening and the entrepreneurs out there, a lot of times when someone starts a business, they're like, oh, I can do this. I can do this. But how do you feel like that actually helps you gain the trust and gain the team to understand you better when you came in and listened and did not come in as a wrecking ball to change things, but looked at them as the professionals? How do you think that affected y'all's relationship and the ability to grow to the next level?
Well, I think the tendency is it's always a tricky balance, especially coming in from the outside without the industry expertise. Because you could come in one, two ways. You could come in and say, hey, here's how it's going to be. I know how to run this ship. And by the way, I think some people have a hard time showing the vulnerability of listening, because that's kind of what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be vulnerable to listen, and maybe someone's got a better idea than you. God forbid that would ever happen. But I think what they saw in me is someone that was genuinely dedicated to the team and willing to take to actually listen. And I was really pleasantly surprised at how that sort of resonated with the team. They were appreciative that I would actually listen. I'm like, well, to me, that's just the way it should be. Anybody that comes in thinking they have all the ideas, it doesn't always build trust in a way. So just listening built that trust early on. And there were some great ideas in those early conversations I had with the folks. There was a reason why we didn't do it, and maybe they just weren't aware of why we didn't do it. But I listened to them nonetheless, and it gave them a voice. And it had, when I did this for about 6 months with the intention of, hey, I'm not going to make sweeping changes within 6 months, because by the way, PMW is doing very well. So I don't want to come in and wreck something that's going well. What I want to do is double down on the things that we're doing really well and improve on those things that could be done better. And the game is going to, everybody, the tide is going to rise for everybody. And I think that it took him a little, it actually went much better than I thought. I think the buy-in happened much sooner. I think being, endorsed by Dave and John early on, because again, Dave knew me, and there's a huge amount of trust with those two guys as leaders of the company. So there was already that instant credibility that happened there. I think people sometimes give you the benefit of the doubt on the leadership front. If you're retired military in West Point, they know that you've at least been exposed to leadership and good leadership along the way, and bad leadership too, know what not to do. But I think that there was a lot of instant credibility. And I think maybe the greatness in my beard helped a little bit too. I think there was some, he's been around the block a couple of times, so we might listen to this guy. But it really was great, because what I did is I didn't just, I actually listened and then took their ideas and said, here's what you said. I actually went back and thought about it. I reflected on it. I actually dug in on this, and we can take that idea, match it with this idea, and we can create a new offering that would be very valuable. And, the other thing that I think was helpful along the way is, I also at conferences and stuff, I started talking to clients. What do you like about PMW? What do you not like about PMW? What can we do better? Just being constantly relentless on getting feedback from the clients, because you know what? Everybody will tell you their opinion. It may not always be, perfect, but hey, it's their opinion, and their opinion matters. And whether or not it's fact based, whether or not it's maybe misguided sometimes, maybe they don't have all the context as to why we do certain things, it's still their opinion. And I wanted to double down on that, because I believe in client centricity. It's our number one core value.
Oh, I like that.
Is client centricity, because without the clients, we don't exist, we don't have purpose. So what's the point? So client centricity, making sure that they feel valued every step of the way, and they see tremendous value in our services. The minute that goes away, I don't feel like we have a compelling offering, and we're just like, we've become a commodity. So we have a constant reminder about that. And everything that we try to do it revolves around client centricity.
I love it. Now, during this whole time, you've talked about team and it a lot. Talk to our entrepreneurs that are listening. How important is the team behind the business? Like at PMW, let's talk about that. Your team behind the business, how important is it?
You know what? Now, this is something I think about a lot, because I will tell you right now, and for entrepreneurs, this is a great thing to remember. Every property manager knows this. I mean, the pain points I talk to most PMs is about the team, right? Turnover and things like that. When I came in, I was like, man, I am surrounded by people that have like many years of industry expertise. I cannot replace that easily if I were to have to replace it. So I am going to double, triple, quadruple down on making these team members feel valued, and to make sure that they have purpose in their everyday work. Because if they get bored, if I can't provide growth opportunities and like feed the beast, so to speak, from an employee perspective, then I will lose talent. And that would be a huge blow to PMW, because I can't put a LinkedIn post ad out there, need someone 10 years, property management, digital marketing expertise. Any takers out there? Yeah, I will not get any applicants because no one will qualify. So I treat these employees like gold. And we implemented ENPS, Employee Net Promoter Score. So a lot of people are familiar with Net Promoter Score, and it's usually, and we do that for our clients. We just implemented that. We did a one-off last year, and the results were incredible. I mean, PMW ended up with a NPS of 52, which translates to a top 7% of all companies across the board.
That's awesome.
And in this industry, that's amazing. And I wasn't expecting that. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, well, that's good. I want to keep measuring that. I want to make it 95%, not the top, 7%. I want it to be the top 5% and keep going. And, so we implemented this. So we're constantly measuring Net Promoter Score. That's for our clients. But what about the employees? If I'm just working the employees to death and they see like there's not a lot of purpose or they're not happy, then, shame on me as a leader. So we actually measure this. We talk about it. I do one-on-ones with all my leaders, not just my directs, because it's that important to me. I mean, we could have the best G Whiz product ever, but if I don't have the employees behind to help implement and deliver that, then we don't have the same company that we have today. So for me in particular, and I think that's a lesson in life, too many times, I think it's, you sometimes start taking that for granted, that the employees are going to show up every day, earn a paycheck. I don't want them to just show up and earn a paycheck. I want them to show up with passion, and I want that to be conveyed to the clients, because how you treat your employees is how they're going to deliver to your clients. And I know you see that too, Tiffany. Hopefully everybody sees it. Anybody who I've seen who's successful in this industry, they get it. And it's really important.
The team is incredibly
You can have
important.
all the tools as a brand new property manager. Think about it. The barriers to entry are not extravagant for a property manager, but you know what is hard? Retaining talent to make that successful. And that does matter. It's going to matter. I hope it continues to matter. With humanoids, who knows? I think, yeah.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. I listen to a lot of podcasts on this. It is crazy, but I do think that the human element, it's almost, there was a podcast I was listening to recently that people are like, in chess, the computer always wins, so, would anyone watch a chess match with a computer playing a computer? No one would ever watch that. They wouldn't even watch it with a computer playing a human. That's not fun. They will watch a human play a human because that's more fun, because we're imperfect. So I think that, I'm still hopeful that, humans will continue to be valued the way they are today, and you really have to take care of them. And I think that that's like one of the most important things that we can do. So
100%. I think what you said was barrier to entry in the property management field. Right. It's not that. I mean, just start, get your license. You can get in pretty simple. I think the biggest downfall, and this is what you see on stage, everybody talks about growth, 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 growth. But I think the problem behind the growth is actually the operations. And it's a balancing act, like Mark Cunningham talked about. What was interesting, I was dreaming about it before he talked about it on stage at Rent Vine. And he got on stage and was like, oh my goodness, I've been dreaming about this. And people need to start talking about how it's a balancing act. You want growth, you have to bring your team up. And you have to continue to hire, continue to develop, continue to lead, because the problem is you can't grow and bring on units and then leave the team where it's at. Otherwise, they get hurt in the process. It's a balancing act, and I love that. I think the team is the most important thing. I always say the rocket fuel behind the business is the team. Without the team, you have no business. I have a few other questions because I wanna respect your time, but if you had any advice to give entrepreneurs that are going through this, what would you tell them? This roller coaster of the ups and downs, trying to figure it all out, because no road to entrepreneurship is real easy. What would you tell them?
Well, yeah, I mean, especially in today's world, there's so much change out there right now. In fact, we can talk about some of the trends we're seeing out there right now at this very moment with, just the environment that we live in today. But I think what I would tell an entrepreneur is just getting started, and maybe doesn't have the benefit of miles and years that they've traveled, right? I would say, it's okay to feel a little bit of the imposter syndrome. In fact, I think that's healthy. It's okay. And I felt that early on in my career because hey, you come out of West Point, there's all these expectations that everything. Like, hey, you went to West Point, you should know what you're a lieutenant now. You're in charge of the platoon or whatever, and I was always, standing tall, stiff upper lip, definitely look like you're in charge. And you should. I mean, obviously people read those cues and they want someone who looks confident and sure of themselves. But it's okay to feel a little bit of the imposter syndrome. And what I mean by that is, maybe you don't have all the right ideas, and maybe you don't know everything, but that's okay, because if you have a belief that leadership isn't not about perfection or certainty, but it's more about character, and those things, your conviction, your continuous growth mindset. If you stick to those and don't get distracted by not getting everything perfect, you will be fine in the end. So I think a lot of times people, they deal with adversity in different ways. Some people are disappointed, they don't bounce back. So building that resilience to know that, it's going to be a little up and down. I mean, you just said it, to deal with the up and down as an entrepreneur. Those downs, they're going to kind of get you down a little bit. And those ups give you the dopamine hit that are like, oh man, I want to get up and do this again tomorrow. And then you have another down day. It's almost like my jumps when I was jumping out of airplanes. When I had a good jump and I got to the bottom, it was a soft landing. I was like, oh my God, do it again. And then when I had a hard one and got a concussion, I was like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do that again. So, but it helped me build that resilience, and that resilience is key to bouncing up. And by the way, being a leader is a lonely place to be. Like in an organization, who do I look? I mean, it's great that I have Dave, right? And we can talk about these things, and everybody should seek out a mentor. So if I were an entrepreneur in the PM space, you're lucky, because like 15 years ago, I don't know that there were the podcasts like you do, that Mark Cunningham does, Peter Loma. I mean, these are like podcasts, they're free, they're out there. You can go listen to them. And it's amazing because you're talking about so many of the issues that come up, probably 90% of the issues. I mean, you still have to execute them, but at least you're talking about them, and you're helping people see around the corner much easier and much faster than ever before. So I think, understand where the tools are, the mentorship that's out there, and, really, so if I were a PM just getting started, an entrepreneur, and I would go out there and listen to what the industry's saying. And luckily, there are a lot of people saying some really good things. And it doesn't take long to figure out who is really the respected people in this industry and listen to them, kind of listen to their story and learn from some of their mistakes. And, and just have that conviction inside to know that, you know what, I'm going to make mistakes along the way, and that's fine. I'm not going to get all right. But you know what? Take care of the team. Okay. That's an important one. Take that tip, prioritize it, take care of the team, build the team, build your company uh, in a way, kind of like what you're talking about with Mark talking about, like, don't get over your skis,
Mm-hmm.
grow responsibly in a sustainable way. And that's one thing that I think about all the time. So I talked about at the outset of, we've had tremendous growth, but a lot of that was like low hanging fruit. Now we're in a good spot where we just want to grow at a reasonable pace. A churn is a thing that I think everybody deals with. Our churn is relatively low, and we're very happy about that. But like I want zero churn. I don't want anyone to ever leave us. Obviously, people go out of business, so that's the uncontrollable churn. You
Yeah.
can't really control that. But if someone's not happy with our service, I want to learn more from that person than someone who's happy with their service, because I don't want that to ever happen again. So we take that very seriously. Sometimes you have, I mean, the nature of business is you have people saying, well, we can do it better. We've been doing, we've been doing great. We can promise certain things, but their ability to deliver is probably not there. But it's easy, it's easy to be swayed by that. Well, how much? Okay, you can do it better, and it's, about the same price, and so be careful on that, because as we know, there usually aren't any shortcuts, and there's always a catch out there. So you just have to be aware of that. Um,
Yeah, I
but
look at it as you pay for what you get. You know,
yeah,
you don't move because of a dollar, because that dollar can either be quality or it can make it where your company struggles. I mean, I really truly believe you pay for what you get. So whenever I have an owner that talks to the BDM, it was like, well, I can get it cheaper. Well, why are you looking? Yeah, you're getting it cheaper because your quality is not there. And I think that's really important for people to understand. You really truly get for what you pay for. If you want quality, it takes a team behind it to create the quality. If you don't want quality, then you can have the crummy service. But if you want service, you gotta pay for it. It just takes manpower. It takes quality and time. One thing you said I loved is listen. You said imposter syndrome, but I think a lot of times when you were talking about that, as people are listening, I think it's really important to be humble. And I think that's what that gives you when you are very aware that you don't have all the answers. I think it's really important to have humility when you're an entrepreneur, because you got to realize you're not going to make all the right decisions, but you have to be able to own them. Like, you know what, screwed up there, all right, let's pick back up, let's keep going. And I think that's incredibly important. And one other thing you said, people that go on the entrepreneurial journey, they need to understand it's going to be a lonely top at sometimes. And I think you can hire mentors, and I have a board that I love to talk to, because it does help when you are in that lonely spot, because you have to make hard decisions. You have to say things that normally you wouldn't want to say, but you have to because it's best for the business. And
yeah.
I think that's really important to understand. But Chris, what is the best advice you've ever received?
Best reason. Well, I tell you. So I've got one. I'll do a personal one and a professional one.
Okay, I like it.
The best advice I ever received. And when I was getting my MBA, now I'll leave out all the drama here, but there was a guy who took over David Packard at Hewlett Packard. And he took over as CEO of David Packard. And his name was Lou Platt. He's since passed away, but a great leader. He's been in MBA case studies all over the place. And he was a people's person. He, he smoked. I don't recommend doing that. But like he used to go out on a smoke break and he would light up a cigarette next to a janitor who had no idea who he was and would talk to him and then find out later, like, oh my God, that was the CEO. Like this guy was not pretentious, very humble. And I always just respected him so much. I had a chance to he was kind of a mentor of mine while I was get my MBA many years ago. And he told me I was getting ready to have my first child. And so this is a personal one, not a professional one. And he said, the best advice I can tell you is hold them as long as you can. And so, now that my kids are grown past the point where I can hold them in my arms, and I remember that was my first one. I always tell people who are getting ready to have a child, I'm like, man, hold them as long as you can, because that gives me so much passion and purpose and energy every day. The family, I've got an amazing wife who's been just incredible and supported me in so many ways. And it's made me a better version of myself. So that is one bit of advice that I always try to give someone who's getting ready to have a child. From a professional perspective, the best advice that I was given is, hey, be comfortable with making mistakes. And I was like, oh, yeah. I really didn't think about that too much, but it really lends into all this servant leadership and the imposter syndrome. And, it's, I think it's healthy to have that sense of humility to know that you're not going to get it all right. It keeps you grounded, it keeps you sharp too. It makes you come back every day saying, hey, I may have had it wrong yesterday, but I tell you what, I'm gonna make it better today. And if you come in with that mentality and perspective, yeah, don't worry about making mistakes. So it's actually very simple and so fundamental advice. It seems like, well, that's not very thought provoking, but it is.
It is.
Because so many people have a hard time with it. Kind of goes back to how I came into PMW. Like, there the door was open for me to come in any way I could, right? I could have come in like a wrecking ball, like, hey, I know what the hell I'm doing here. So everybody just, take notes. And a lot of people do that too, by the way, and it's, I mean, it's hopefully they do it well and it resonates with the people. It depends on the culture. I think the culture that was created at PMW and Rent Vine, that would not have worked. And I'm glad. And I think I'm a good fit for that type of culture because again, I'm open to growth every single day. And being comfortable with making mistakes, uh, fail fast, and learn from those mistakes those are important traits. So I don't know. That's the best advice. I know that's not mind blowing, but
No, but I actually love it.
well.
No, I love it because as an entrepreneur, you've got to get back up. You've got to be okay with that. You got to become very comfortable with the uncomfortable. I mean, you're going to be pushed past your bounds on a daily basis if you're doing anything good. I mean, it just is part of business, it's part of building the team, it's part of the entrepreneurship journey. That is what it is. And it's very uncomfortable sometimes. And you have to be okay with that. But if you become okay with that, then you can do great things.
Yeah.
I think it's a learning experience. But what is the worst advice you've ever received, Chris? This one's always interesting when I ask it.
Yeah. The worst advice that I have got. Oh man, that's a good one. Because you try to let those drip off pretty quick. I think look out for number one. That's one that look out for yourself on that. I mean, like everybody's on a journey, a professional journey. You do have to mind that journey, and you have to take stock and evaluate your progress. Are you being pushed hard enough, and that sort of thing. But I think as a general rule, if that is one of your first instincts to look out for number one, I think that's not it's not a sustainable practice, and you will be outed pretty quick. And I've seen too many people do that, follow that advice, whether they knew they were following it or not. So, but yeah, I've had people tell me you got to look out for number one.
Yeah, that's I would
It's not
agree.
winning
That's horrible
strategy.
advice. Because I think also your team would be able to read that real quick. And you can't have a business when you're just looking out for yourself. You got to have where you want everybody to fly, everybody to elevate, everybody to do great things, and everybody to want what they truly want out of life. I was just talking to one of my team members in Prescott yesterday, and we were talking, and she was talking about our goals. I was like, I want to know what your dream is. And she looked at me and was like, I've never been asked that before. We just acquired this PM company. I was like, no, but it's important, because if your dream is something you truly want and I can help you get there, then we both fly, right? We both do great things. And even if you see yourself 2 or 3 years here, or even whatever you see, if I can help you with that, then let's make that happen.
Right.
And
Well,
I think
Tiffany,
that's
I
important.
think that some people have this zero sum mindset. Like if you win, I lose, and it doesn't have to be like that.
Nope.
I'm a big believer in, what? I think there's a win for both of us.
Mm-hmm.
And too many times people come in, I've seen way too many people. I mean, I'm sad to say it's too many people are just out for like number one, and they don't think about the team behind them. And again, that may, you may win the battle. You're not going to win the war with that strategy. I can tell you that much.
Oh, I like that. I like that, what you just said, 100%. There is win-win strategies. There is totally win-win. And lately we've gone in that way with acquisitions. What's a win-win? How do we both win here? And when we've done that, it just comes to the table and works out because both people are winning. And it has to be that way. Okay, so now one other question. If you had one book for our entrepreneurs to read that would help them with their journey, what would you recommend? Is there a book out there you'd recommend for them to read?
There are so many books. But you asked for one.
Well, you can give me a couple because I'm the same way. I love that.
Okay. All right. I love to read books. Again, if you take that growth mindset, right, there's always something to learn.
There is.
There are some that have stood out a little bit better for me than others. Okay. The ones that have been almost like, I'll say somewhat life-changing in a way for me. Team of Teams by Stanley McChrystal. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
I haven't. I have not read that one.
Okay. That Stanley McChrystal is one of the most celebrated like Delta Force guy. I mean, absolute brilliant soldier of his time. Went on to be a 4-star general, but he served in Delta Force. And the whole point of his book is a team of teams. Like you empower others around you to be better versions of themselves. So it's not a top-down strategy. It's more of a team of teams. And I love the message. It resonated in so many ways. And everybody who I've said to read that book, they love it.
I'm gonna have to read that now. Look, I'm taking advice.
It's a good one because it does make you, it challenges me as a leader to make sure that I am giving enough authority and like rope to my team members to thrive, because that's what they want, by the way. I haven't really heard too many people that, kind of want to progress in their career to say, yeah, I'm looking at scaling back the leadership opportunities. If you could, please. It's more about, I would like more leadership opportunities. How can you provide them? So it really makes you think about what you're doing with your own team and if you're providing that growth opportunity. And it's about trust too. So that was the other thing. He's a Delta Force guy. Those guys, they don't have this top-down structure. Sir, can I do this? No, they act on instinct because there's so much trust built into the team that they know they can read each other's minds as to what they're going to do. Very few units can get to that level of, way to operate, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. And you can get close to acting that way. And it does challenge to make sure you're not creating this top down, everybody waiting on my decision sort of leadership mentality. You don't want that. In today's world, that's too slow. You're going to get beat. Another one that's really good is The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
I haven't heard of that one.
Okay. It's a very thought-provoking one that really made me think about some of the ways we're predispositioned and how we make decisions. And it makes you step back and say, are there things that I need to change in the way I act as a leader? Anybody can benefit from that one. And the final one, why we sleep. It's kind of out of nowhere. It's by I can't remember the guy who wrote it, but if you read any sleep study, they probably refer to him. And the reason why I say that is because I wasn't taking care of myself through my military career. I was not getting enough sleep, burning on both ends, and then throw kids in there. Sleep did not get any better, right? And I wasn't taking care of myself. I read that book and it changed how I need. It wasn't so much about the sleep. Okay, I mean, a lot of that, everybody knows they should get more sleep, so nothing new there. Although there are some fascinating ways it impacts your brain and how you show up every day. But what it did is it made me take a step back and say, you know what, this is a marathon, not a sprint. I need to take care of myself. And I think that a lot of people kind of forget that as leaders too. So,
Oh, I love what you just said. It's a marathon, not a sprint, because in entrepreneurship, it's not overnight. It takes time. Anything you're going to change, anything you're going to do, you can't be like, hey, it's going to be done overnight. And I had to learn that because I wanted things done like yesterday. Come on, guys, why not, right? But it is a marathon. It's making a plan, taking action, running that marathon and not the sprint of, a 2.5 second thing. It's, it takes time. So I love that one. I love that a lot.
And you wouldn't be able to do the podcast that you do today and to have as much reach and impact if you hadn't done all those things, if you hadn't run those first 20 miles of the marathon.
I know.
So
I've run multiple marathons. Yeah, it's the last 4 miles that really get you. If you ever heard that, what they say the first 20 miles is nothing. You're running the marathon in the last 5. Last 5 miles is what is the marathon. And if you get there, then that's where it all matters. And what I realize is entrepreneurs have to learn how to, I know people are against this, but they have to learn how to wait for the outcome, suffer a little bit longer, do the hard work. And then as the longer you can do that, the better the outcome,
Yep. Yeah. I mean, man, 22 miles. I hit the wall at 20 miles. I did 2 of them. And I feel like I'm like 3 times the size of you, Tiffany. So you got to think about all that weight coming down every step for, 26.2 miles. It was pretty brutal, but yeah. It sounds like you went a little further and probably faster than I did. But
no, I've run few. We've done half Ironmans. Got out of training a little bit. Need to get back into it. It's just been. We've got some big growth goals coming up this year, so it's a lot of fun, and it's because of the team. And I had one of my team members contact me and say, "Hey, we're doing great things." I was like, "It's because of y'all." There might be a face at the podcast or a face on, the website or whatever, but it's because of the team that everything's able to happen. One person can't do it all. It's not possible.
Well, Tiffany, on that note, I've got a question for you.
Oh, okay.
All right. You are ambitious. You bring a lot of fire. What can we do better as a company to help you?
Ooh. I actually really love working with PMW. I really do. My websites have always done better with PMW. We started ad spin with y'all this last year. And that's, I know my marketing director meets with y'all once a month and goes over it. That's a new venture for us. We have, how many websites do we have with y'all now?
3, I believe, right?
Yeah, it is. We might have a 4th here in the next couple months though. So yes. So what could we do different? I might need to think about that, but I do love working with y'all. One question I have is, how do we get on the AI aspect? Because if you search through AI and you search on Google, you get different companies.
Yeah.
So one thing I am trying to learn, and I would love help from y'all on this, how do we get on the AI search more?
Oh, yeah. So, Kristen Ewan just did so she's starting to, so this is one of the other things, talk about like some things that we could do different, right? Mm-hmm. What I learned early on is we weren't telling the story at all. You have Kristen Ewan, and, Sam Adams, who does our paid search, and all these other great leaders. And I'm like, guys, I would love for you to start writing and sharing some of these things. Kristen just wrote an article on this. I'm going to share it with you. And I believe it's on our website. I got to find out where it is.
Okay.
So let me find out where it is. But it talks about how the AI, you're talking about the Gemini, and
Mm-hmm.
AI, how that comes up at the top. And it is impacting search, but it's still being fed by the Google rankings. So, this is something that we've been on like crazy because this is a big deal for everybody.
It is.
How are you changing with the AI? And, Google, let's think about it. They're kind of cannibalizing themselves, right? With the
Mm-hmm.
Gemini, because people aren't looking at search as much. People still do look into search, and it is still being fed. And Kristen kind of goes into more detail about how those AI searches are still fed by Google and what's out there in the content world. But a lot is being written on this. It's a big deal. It is going to change how people do business over
Mm-hmm.
time. We were just having a conversation on this last week about how, make sure that our 1,200 clients understand what's going on in this space. Let's educate them. By the way, everything is through education with us, because if we educate our clients more, then they truly understand what we're doing every day. The times that we have a disconnect is where they just don't understand what we're doing behind the scenes. And then they're like, well, why am I paying for this? Okay, well, let's talk about that, but a lot of times, the PMs are also very busy too. So we are mindful of that. But I will follow up with you on that specific article. She just wrote it. I think it was within 2 weeks, and put it out there.
I would love it. Love
yeah,
it.
it's a
Because
great
we're
question.
researching quite a bit on this, because most people are starting to go to Grok, ChatGPT, and Gemini to actually search now.
Right.
As a lot of
Yeah.
people aren't going just to the search engines anymore. And so if you search like property management, you'll get two different things.
Yeah.
If you go to search engine, you get one. If you go to Grok, you get a whole different list. And so I'm like, so I'm excited to see the article. Yeah, send that to me. But
I will send it to you, and we'll continue. This is a big deal in the industry.
is.
It will continue to only. It's not like they're going to be like, yeah, ChatGPT was a failure.
No, this is
Here
staying
to
around.
stay. It's like the invention of the internet. I remember when the internet came around, I was like, this might be a game changer. And it was. ChatGPT, agentic AI, all that. It's a game changer. And
It is.
again, that's why we have a Monday board to track it all, because a lot of it is frivolous, unnecessary. A lot of it is actually really good, and we should consider using that. And also, we want to go the extra step to say, hey, here's what our clients ought to be using, not just us for our clients, but here's what our clients could be using to be that kind of advisor. So lots more on that. I know we're at time. Tiffany, I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your podcast. We think so highly of you, and you're a lot of fun too. That's the other thing.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on. Where can our viewers and listeners find you, Chris?
Well, if you don't see me at any conference, please let me know. I'm at all the major conferences, but mypmw.com, we're out there. I am always, any lead form that comes through, I get personally. I track them all. But I'm at chris@cova.com. And anytime there's an issue, my team knows to email it to me, and I reach out directly. It's not like I want to be the complaint, chief complaint officer or anything like that. We don't get a lot of them, but when we do, I take them seriously. And I follow up personally. And those who've ever had an issue or concern, I certainly hope that in the last year and a half, they can confirm that, because I take that very seriously. So I like to make myself very accessible. Anybody on the team, they have a direct line to get a hold of me. We got a much bigger team now, but this is a service industry. We want to be there for our clients. So
I do the same thing. Everybody has my cell. So we appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on today, Chris. Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in today to The Road Less Traveled. If you're organizing an event, workshop, or simply planning something exciting and would like to have Tiffany Rosenbaum join you, or want to have her on your podcast, visit TiffanyMRosenbaum.com and click on Book Tiffany to get started.